Hi folks, welcome back to the Model 3 Man channel. Well, yesterday I had a knock on the door, went up and found somebody with 2 boxes of these, giving them to me. That's what's inside. This is a free plug, by the way, because these are so good. Hard pops, flavoring, water, sugar, and vodka. Canadian vodka. The right time to eat this would be after I finish giving this upload, not before. The girl who has invented and is marketing these has been a friend of mine for many years, and she's a wonderful entrepreneur and a great tech lover, and Tesla is the car she loves most. So happy to give a free plug to Hard Pops made in Canada. Lots of good things come from Canada. Number 2, I'm so excited because the episode now is my first opportunity to record using my new Fujifilm X-T4 that did arrive a few days ago, about a week ago. Take a look here. So as you can see behind me, the guitars are now slightly out of focus because we have some nice shallow depth of field. Can film with a low F number, shallow depth of field. It looks a lot nicer to my eye, but it also has eyeball tracking. So see these 2 pupils? It's tracking me. Wherever I move, stays in focus, I believe. Number 3, our local Tesla showroom now has a Model Y on the floor. If any of you out there are in Canada or in Vancouver and you're about to take delivery of a Model Y, please let me know if you don't mind me coming to film an episode and do a walk through the car, feature your car on one of the episodes of Model 3 Man. So, as you know, I uploaded an episode that basically said that we'd probably get to 98% full self-driving, and it was very unlikely, in my humble opinion, that we would get 100% of the way there, given certain realities. Boy, did it bring on the comments. To read through was in itself a multi-hour exercise, but here's what I said. Once you've made your comments, I'm going to do a return video that talks about your comments, your reactions, and how you feel about what I had to say. This is that video. You'll find this really interesting, so stick around. If you want to know what the average Tesla owner thinks about full self-driving, the results are all in here. First of all, I have to say this. Hats off to William Peake. Who is William Peake? William Peake is an 80-year-old man. Listen to what he said. After reading most of the comments, I cannot believe that there are so many negative Tesla owners out there. All you Tesla owners. I've always looked at this group of people as being forward-thinking, especially in light of the fact that they have done something that the majority of people don't do, and that is to buy an electric car. I remember when I talked with my grandfather, who was born in the 1800s, folks, not long after the Civil War. He told me that when the automobile first came to be, he and almost all of the people at the time said it would never replace the horse and carriage. He said when the aeroplane was invented, he and everybody else said it was only a toy, it could never evolve into a practical means of transportation. He also told me that he and everybody else said that no human being or any other object could ever venture beyond the Earth's atmosphere. It just wasn't possible. He did live to see the landing on the moon. and to see all of his earlier beliefs proved false. And says William, I'm now 80, and I'm not sure that I will ever see self-driving cars in my lifetime. However, I have no doubt it will happen. William, hats off to you. What I'm going to do today is draw from the comments, but I want to start off with the results. Because I got a little comment from somebody who said, I'm interested in what you have to say. This was Ron Ty. I'm interested in what you have to say. But 43 minutes is way too long to bother with it. How about doing a 5-minute synopsis? Ron, here's your 5-minute synopsis. I predicated that there were so many externalities that mitigated against full self-driving ever becoming 100% full self-driving, that we should be satisfied with 98%, with 99% even perhaps, but that there were certain things the car could never simply do on its own. I then listed 21 scenarios that happened to me while I was driving around, and used these as examples of why I believed it was so complex for full, complete self-driving to ever fully evolve. There's your 1-minute synopsis. And then, of course, there was 20th Century Boy who wrote, I heard that all of this will be fixed in the next Tesla update. So there we go. Somebody with a sense of humor. But now, let's get to the real results. Here's the breakdown. 35.8% said full self-driving can and will happen eventually. Total 100% complete self-driving. 2.8% who said that Elon could get rid of the steering wheel and pedals. All he'd have to do is replace it with either a joystick or some other device that would give us intervention control of the car in the event that the car did something really stupid or really terminal. 61.3% effectively said full complete self-driving is a pipe dream, given all the external realities that are not dependent upon Elon, of which he has no control. He's going to be limited by those externalities. That was 61.3%. So there's the breakdown. Twice as many people say it probably won't get to 100% as say that it will definitely happen. So first of all, doubts about why full self-driving is probably unlikely to happen. Olivier Lucier, who comes from Quebec, said that he does believe that we won't get to 100%, but he does believe that we'll probably get it to be good enough to go from point A to point B without human intervention. Not looking at all of the complexities and the weird little things that we might encounter, but on a general trip from point A out of your driveway to point B to the destination, he believes that will happen. Tesla's doing an amazing job. The product is always improving. Number 2. So this was by Ryan. About a week ago, he commented, I absolutely agree with you that we're not going to reach full self-driving. This will be Elon's biggest fail. Not because it's his fault, but because there are too many things that need changing for this to happen. He is decades ahead of himself, since the entire world's infrastructure needs to be changed. Our world is not designed for autonomy and won't be for the foreseeable future. So Elon's a genius, but it's not his fault, but the rest of the world is conspiring for this not to happen. And then Kevin, a week ago, says, I've no doubt that full self-driving will happen sometime in the future, but I'm no longer confident it will happen in 5 years, as I once thought. There are too many variables in driving for Tesla to achieve it with the current technology and machine learning. But I think the majority of people will be more than satisfied with 98%, as was I when I said I'd be quite happy with that. I'm quite happy to pay for it. Elon, where's that last-minute sale before you put the price up? Dennis Chick, who, by the way, owns a Welsh Red Dragon. So Red Dragon has a Welsh counterpart. Dennis Chick said, without significant infrastructure change at mega cost, we will never be able to overlay full self-driving on today's road systems, let alone, quite frankly, abysmal and dangerous driving habits of far too many. For example, he says, The car will have to talk to the infrastructure, to traffic lights, road signs, and roundabouts will then have to go because they're too unreliable. They'll have to be replaced by a future traffic control technology. If the car is in full self-driving, it won't need to see the lights, it'll talk electronically. The world simply cannot afford to make all these changes that are required. Financially, monetarily, the world cannot afford it. The very developed countries, possibly, but we're talking about the entire world. So a commenter with the name of Thomas Winston, he says, Peter, you are right. It's a well-made video. I commute 60 plus 60 miles in my Model 3 every day. My car tries to brake while driving at 70 miles an hour in bright sunlight if you go through a shadow, e.g. under a bridge. I won't drive a car without steering wheels and pedals. Okay, well, we've all had the phantom braking happen to us, I know that. Here's an interesting one. Joseph Chernow, retired CEO of a large taxi cab company, says, kudos, I agree with you 100%. Over 60 years of driving. I'm the retired CEO of a large taxi cab company, 2,500 drivers, and I'm intimately familiar with the very diverse situations that are faced by professional drivers. Until a reasonable monthly subscription for FSD is offered, I will not spring for the $7,000 to $8,000 upgrade for FSD. Enhanced autopilot gives me most everything I want in my wonderful Model 3 long-range rear-wheel drive. Well, that's the same car that I have. Someone with the name of FEVENGR, FEVENGR1, writes, true full self-driving for all situations will not happen soon. To make it work safely will require nationwide legislative action to impose minimum design standards for lane markings and for signage. I've seen a few construction zones so poorly marked that if you don't have another car to follow, you really couldn't tell which way to go, and lacking other traffic, you are forced to just go on a hunch. If a human driver has trouble knowing where to go when presented with confusing and conflicting information, how can any level of AI accomplish this task safely? Islands Now writes as follows, I think until all cars do self-driving, there is no way. Even four-way stops. Does the algorithm have an understanding of the courtesy that every alternate car will leave the four-way stop, or that if two arrive at the same time, the car on the right would be the one to go first? And finally, let's end this section here with Bob Harding Williams from somewhere in the UK says, thanks for an excellent episode. I'm a driving instructor based in the UK, and I completely agree with everything you've demonstrated and explained in your episode. Human intervention? You bet! While driving, my wife and I play a game called I wonder if the car will respond to the cyclist, cones, skip, parked truck, hazard ahead. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And boy, do you have to take control quickly when it doesn't. And then he says, I will believe that full self-driving is possible when a car can go through the magic roundabout in Swindon. So that intrigued me. I thought to myself, magic roundabout in Swindon. Got to go look this up. Well, happily he'd given me a URL to go to. So here we are. Take a look at the magic roundabout in Swindon. A confusing series of circles surrounding a central circle, if ever I saw one. Next section, possible solutions and positive ideas that can help to make full self-driving better, that can help to bring it up to where it should be. So John Fruworth writes the following: voice commands may allow us to give guidance to the car. So for example, I had raised the issue of what if I was going to a business and the car had an option of parking on the road or going into the parking lot and parking inside. Well, John writes, you could tell the car, Red Dragon, please park in the parking lot. I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense. That would get over the issue of, does the car know to go in the parking lot or is it going to stick on the street? Kaz Cam 2000 said, there will be full self-driving, only it will take longer than expected. 10 years is my prediction. We will have autonomous driving, but not everywhere. It'll only be on the roads which are programmed into the memory of the vehicle as being roads that full self-driving can navigate. On a similar note, Shelby McIntyre says the following: geofence the bad areas out of where FSD will allow the car to go. He writes, many of the issues you mentioned can be addressed by geofencing out the bad areas. The car would then either take an alternate route or it would refuse the trip. So in other words, it's full self-driving where full self-driving is possible. John Chapman believes voice navigation will substitute for everything, for steering wheel, brakes, and accelerator. If we get stuck somewhere, we'll be able to either talk to it, tap on a screen, move a joystick, some form of input. Ronald Bingham also comes with the joystick suggestion. As for the steering wheel and the pedal removal, they should be replaced with a joystick. Push to accelerate, pull to brake, turn right or left with a joystick. Everything from wheelchairs to Airbus airliners to modern fighters use them. And from Mikey8156, he referred to the incident where I said that I think the car would have great difficulty in backing down my driveway in reverse and going into Dragon Cave without knocking into the tent poles that are hidden and destroying the tent. And he says, maybe in the future we will be able to train the car. The next time it encounters the similar situation, it'll know just what to do. Peter, your tent garage, for instance. So that if we did have something like a joystick, I could get it to back down the drive, turn in, and it could remember the exact path, and then next time, just do it. I don't know. What if it didn't start from exactly the same angle at the top of the driveway? But nevertheless, let's agree that that's a possibility. Some people had issues with some of the 21 examples that I demonstrated through little video clips. One person, and I searched high and low for that comment today, even listed all 21 and his response to those 21 situations. Well, hats off to him for that. I just couldn't find it again to give credit. But here are some issues that people brought up. Veteran C61 said, this is certainly a serious issue and discussion is important, but what you offered in your 21 situations was really a red herring. Who in their right mind would purchase a vehicle that had full self-driving which could not be disengaged? So in fact, if I look at this again, it's more like he's saying, I wouldn't buy that kind of a car if you couldn't intervene yourself. Rob Sanger chides me and he says, not clever passing that garbage truck, Peter. You should have judged that it was about to make a move and there was insufficient space. So I did reply to Rob Sanger and I said to him, look, that road has a garbage truck that was going to be picking up garbage for the next 15 minutes. If I was not going to squeeze past at all, the car certainly wouldn't. I'd be driving for 15 minutes to try and get to the intersection where I could get around him. While it's true that as I began to overtake him, the truck began to move, I, as a human, immediately stopped, looked ahead to make sure there was no car coming, and then when he stopped for his next pickup, I then quickly slipped out. I guarantee you the conservative algorithm in a full self-driving context would probably not do that. It would sit behind the truck, following it as it could, as the truck moved, it would move, because passing it involved a very narrow gap, and it involved doing something illegal, moving to the wrong side of the road. So, and then finally, in issues that people raised, here's a big one. Dave Turner, some of your examples, Peter, are obviously easy software corrections. Some are more complex. You are wrong about pulling away at a light. Your car should not follow immediately the car ahead begins moving. For example, if they blow a gear change or they stumble, you will rear-end them. The car is behaving correctly, you are not. I disagree with Dave on this particular point. Here's the thing. Remember when Elon talked about traffic jams and how they would become a thing of the past, because in a traffic jam situation where you might have 200, 300, 400 vehicles all stretched out on a freeway that have come to a stop because of a crash or an accident ahead, Elon's point was that the minute car number one moved, all the cars as a fleet could begin moving immediately. The traffic jam would immediately be no longer. Cars would move and keep up the speed of the front car, and that would be it. That's true. And a car with full self-driving absolutely should be able to move the instant the car ahead moves. Not the car moves and then a second later our car moves. We wouldn't rear-end the car in front. The computer is much faster than a human. So if the car ahead of us slipped a gear or stumbled or did something dumb, our car would immediately notice that, brake, and we wouldn't get into an accident. And if all full self-driving vehicles could begin moving simultaneously, traffic jams would be a thing of the past.
Stuck at an intersection, you always watch unfold the fundamental problem in traffic. On green, the first car accelerates, and then the next, and then the next, and then the next, and then you, only to catch the red. Had the cars accelerated simultaneously, you would have made it through. Coordination, not cars, is the problem, because we are monkey drivers with slow reaction times and short attention spans. Even if we tried, getting everyone to press the pedal on 3, 2, 1 now would be challenging. This discoordination limits how many cars can get through an intersection, and when one backs up to the next, that's when city-sized gridlock cascades happen, taking forever to clear.
As I said, many months have gone by, and my car still waits 1 to 1.5 seconds before it begins moving. Okay, let's end this episode with those who were gung-ho for the yes vote, that they guaranteed it would happen. Kevin McCauley says, "My opinion, I cannot disagree with you more." Thanks, Kevin. Granted, the current level of full self-driving cannot handle 100% of all the driving challenges, but to say that full self-driving will always be out of reach is short-sighted. Elon and crew are constantly and rapidly making improvements. Tesla vehicles in their current configuration may not be up to the task of 100% FSD. There's no reason to believe that new vehicles coming off the assembly line in the future cannot attain 100% FSD. Well, you say it, you don't actually spell out just how these future vehicles coming off the assembly line will achieve it. R-Huisjes, R-Huisjes. It would be nice if we get full self-driving, then we can laugh at this video. Well, some of you are already laughing at the video, and that's fine. I hope we get 100% full self-driving, he says. Well, we all hope that will happen. Philip Burns, Elon has said he would do 100% full self-driving, and it will happen. Yeah, it's on Elon's time. He's delivered on everything else so far. Be patient and be amazed. I stand ready to do just that. And Butch Bailey. Well, Butch wrote a very long and interesting and newsy series of comments. He indicates that he's a strong believer. He shouts at me. Well, he didn't shout at me, but everything's in uppercase letters, and we call that a shout. So he wrote the following. SpaceX is the only company that can fire a rocket up and have it fly back to Earth and land on a target ship. No one else can do it, and yet everyone believes this is normal. It'll be the same for full self-driving. finally one from Charged Up EV, and he says, I highly disagree with you. You're viewing it with how they currently operate cars on roads and handle construction. I'll explain. If we look at how roads are currently maintained, current construction is marked and handles what? And so on. Yes, you are right, FSD will not happen, but that is where most people are narrow-minded. There are a number of ways FSD can and likely will be achieved, but with major and needed changes to how road systems work. I'll list some ways, and he goes on to list them. Dirt roads and others with no marking will not be mapped. They will not be part of full self-driving. But hold on. If you can't go off on a gravel road that has no markings, you don't have full self-driving. You have 99% full self-driving, and then you handle the gravel roads yourself. Or you go across a parking lot that's not at all marked. It's a grass field because you're attending an outdoor concert at the Gorge in Washington. There's a mixture of hope and blind optimism here. There's also a mixture of very good suggestions as to how Elon could and should move forward. And there's a lot of pessimism that Elon will get very, very close, but that the external realities of our world and the lack of finances, the lack of will to act in a unified way, all of those things will make full self-driving probably not practical, at least in our lifetimes. So you say, well, what happens if it happens? And Peter, you're already dead. I thought of that. So I'm going to record my apology now. I'll have it ready. I'll put it in a folder marked Apology for upcoming full self-driving eventuality to be published after my death. And by that time, the Model 3 Man channel will be named to Model 3 Girl, and my daughter Jillian will be running it. And Jillian will publish my apology, in which I grovel and apologize to Elon and apologize to all of you. So there it is. I've thought of it. But I don't somehow think that video is going to be aired. Here's the most important thing. Elon is trying for complete full self-driving, 100%, no input in the car. The car does everything. Even if he gets to 98 or 99%, that is an astronomical accomplishment. That is something that's never been done before. And if he does fail to give us complete full self-driving, it's not because of things that he has done or not done. It's because he's dealing with a very messy world that does not conform, that does not necessarily coordinate, and each country wants to do its own thing. Look, in the United States, each state and each province in Canada wants to do their own thing. We can't even get to buy wine in Nova Scotia and drive them all the way across to British Columbia. We run into provincial borders where that will get confiscated. If we can't even coordinate on a simple thing like that, how do we coordinate on the complete rebuilding of roads, the markings of parking lots, the signage that goes up when construction is in effect, even the signage on roads, when in one country we can't achieve uniformity, and yet it needs to be achieved across the globe. So it will not be Elon's fault. When I was a kid about 55 years ago, here's what they told us. When you guys grow up, you'll be able to drive around in flying cars. They'll fly around in a beautifully orderly fashion. They will not crash. They'll be silent. You'll be able to go where you want, and it'll just be freedom. It'll be the dream.
Hey, Doc, we better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Well, how did that actually turn out? We have a few companies that are still pursuing the dream, but folks, 55 years later, it's still not even practical. We love to believe that full self-driving will become perfect, free of errors, complete in every way, but the world is too messy for that to happen. If Elon gets 99% of full self-driving, treated as complete, it's absolutely going to revolutionize transportation, and I'm, for one, thrilled to be a part of it. Thank you all for contributing. The response was wonderful, more than I expected. It gave me a lot of food for thought. So Yeah, full self-driving rocks. Thanks again for all of your support. Thanks for the comments. The 35mm prime lens on the new camera that I'm filming with today was completely purchased through donations on the PayPal link. And I'm looking forward to being able to get more equipment. As donations come in, I will be upgrading my equipment here. Don't forget to use my Tesla referral code if you're about to buy a Tesla. So look after yourself and your car and your family, and I'll see you in the next episode.